When something you enjoyed as a kid resurfaces, it makes you take a trip down memory lane, whether it be a candy, TV show, hobby, or in today's case, a video game. Through the eyes of your previous self, you may have a very different way of judging things, so how good do you actually remember these things to be? Today we're going to take a look at retro gaming as a whole and dive into a couple of games I enjoyed playing and how well they stand to games today. In addition, we will also look at some games that may have a cult following, despite being decades old. So starting with the first games I've ever played, they're all on GameCube because that was the first console I ever owned. Titles like Sonic Adventure 2 Battle, Star Fox Adventures, Mario Kart Double Dash, James Bond Nightfire, Super Mario Sunshine, Luigi's Mansion, and SpongeBob Battle for Bikini Bottom. Now I thoroughly enjoyed all these games and have played them all recently in the past few years, and enjoyed my playthrough of them. Except those damn Knuckles and Rouge stages. Anyway, Sonic Adventure 2 has its flaws. But have you seen what Sonic will become in its later years?
It sounds like being a princess isn't that easy. Oh my god! Oh my god! Are you kidding me?
I stand by this being one of the better Sonic titles despite its hatred from others. Star Fox Adventures receives criticism for its Zelda clone-like gameplay despite doing some major experimenting with the Star Fox franchise that I personally enjoyed. Mario Kart Double Dash also doing some experimenting of its own that totally worked out in its favor and would still not be replicated in the 4 Mario Kart titles to follow. Double Dash 2 for the Switch. Where the hell are you? 007 Nightfire, although doing nothing new with the first-person shooter genre, built an original story for a James Bond game in addition to a very fun split-screen multiplayer. I'm aware that GoldenEye pretty much invented split-screen multiplayer, but that was before my time, and again, right now we're just talking about what I experienced. Super Mario Sunshine, again, doing some unorthodox changes with the 3D Mario platforming formula, is still fun to play and sped-run by countless Twitch streamers today. Luigi's Mansion, another very fun story mode based game, has also aged very well with a modest following on Twitch. Not to mention it being a launch title for the GameCube, just to put in perspective how old we're talking here. SpongeBob Battle for Bikini Bottom created an open world for all places you enjoyed seeing in the show and did a ton of fan service. A very well executed TV show based game with the highly anticipated remaster coming in 2020. Now, I played a lot more games growing up, but these are just a handful on the very first console I owned, and would say these games can compete or even surpass games I play today. Don't get me wrong, I've played games as a kid and enjoyed them, and have come back with a better judgment in my older years, and gagged at the thought that I actually liked these games at one point in my life. Shadow the Hedgehog, Shrek Extra Large.
You can stun your enemies by eat a chili pepper. Good! Now try lighting your gas cloud on fire. Excellent! You can also create an explosion by pooling and hope. Great!
Nickelodeon Party Blast, Sonic Riders, and Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, just to name a few. In my childhood years, these games were fun and seemed like any other games I played at the time, but I guess I was just too young to understand good mechanics, level design, and whatnot in video games because these games are absolutely horrid and atrocities to their respected franchises. Anyways, as far as retro gaming goes on a personal level, I think games are just as good as you remember, or severely clouded by nostalgia until you've given them a second chance. Now, what games of the past are still being played today by many? One thing that stood out to me and inspired me to make this video was the fact that this year at CEO, the Smash Melee part of the tournament garnered almost double the viewers as the Smash Ultimate section. Although I prefer Ultimate to Melee, I totally understand why people love Melee over Ultimate. Now I could make a whole video as to why that is, but in a nutshell, its mechanics are one of a kind and make it skill-based due to its extremely fast-paced gameplay, making it arguably more competitive. Just look at how sweaty this game gets.
Go. Everybody's just tournament winners. The pressure's on.
Playing around each other right now. Armada not giving him anything. Not
Nobody gets hit.
anything. He gets
That could be it.
To reset the bracket.
The reset.
Reads the double jump. Waits out the air dodge. And Armada, he's going to play one more set. Hungrybox sitting back down. What a sequence from Hungrybox.
My God. This set is back and forth. with a strong opening statement from Hungary.
Another game that is still played by many today is Mario 64. Now, I never had a Nintendo 64 growing up, as I've stated before. GameCube was my first console, but I did get to play it during my middle school days through spending a winter break at my aunt's house. I literally can't believe that this game was released in 1996. It's seriously so far ahead of its time. With 120 stars to collect and many of them not being straightforward and posing a great amount of challenge, the amount of content in this game was unlike any other at the time. The mechanics were unmatched and rewarded the high-skill players due to how crazy your mobility was if you knew what you were doing. This is one of the most popular games to speedrun today, and I'm aware you can absolutely break this game, but that just adds to the fun. This is way before update patches were even possible. 2 years later, we would be blessed with Ocarina of Time, which would also change the way games were made as a whole. I was lucky enough to have the Master Quest and original version for the GameCube, so I was able to play it as a kid, but couldn't appreciate it back then as much as I do now. With a ridiculously large open world with countless upgrades and Easter eggs, it was truly ahead of its time as well. Again, another game that is very popular to speedrun. Halo 2 is another game that has a solid cult following. This is what most Halo players agree is the most competitive and well-balanced as far as multiplayer goes, even though I would say Halo 3 is my personal favorite. Maybe for the same reason Melee is still played today. Just beautiful, ahead of its time mechanics that can't be replicated in games today. Not to mention a kick-ass campaign to enjoy as well. Call of Duty is a franchise that seemed to have peaked during its earlier years, with beloved titles such as Modern Warfare 1, 2, and 3, World at War, and Black Ops. These games didn't need amazing graphics or a bunch of content, just genuine content. I can't tell you how many people I know that love the earlier Call of Duties and have nothing but hatred for the newer titles in the series. We can only hope Modern Warfare 2019 can revive the series and restore it to its former glory. CSGO, although technically can't be considered a retro game since it was released in 2012, was a follow-up to Counter-Strike Source, which was released in 2004. These games are damn near the same other than graphics and a few subtle features. CSGO is played by countless players due to its extremely competitive gameplay that at its core is a game made in 2004. So all in all, games can have an appeal that sees past your childhood nostalgia. Retro gaming will always stay relevant, as we see in today's gaming demographic, with older titles and franchises being preferred to newer ones despite outdated graphics. A good game is a good game, and if it stands the test of time, then it truly is a game worth playing. I hate to be that guy that brings up the whole "today's kids will never know" phrase, but there seriously is a generation of gamers that will miss out on so many great titles just because they're outdated. As stated before, flashy and up-to-date graphics don't make a good game. It's what a game is at its core that decides its relevance. Anyways, what are some of your favorite games that you played as a kid? Go ahead and let me know in the comments down below. Thanks for watching.